always surprised that I get so many questions about stretching from hockey players. Some of the other athletes I train, it's really tough to get them to stretch and work on their mobility. But hockey players seem to really get it. In particular, the goalies that I work with, they understand the importance to their sport. So here's a little mobility routine that I'd like you to do in addition to the assisted deep squat. We'll start off with our hip flexor stretch, tucking our butt underneath so we feel a little stretch in here. But then here's the wrinkle. We're going to bring our heel up towards our rear end, and then it goes more into my front of my thigh. So let me show you what that looks like from the side. So I tuck my butt underneath. This is my hip flexor stretch, and I can do that just as a stretch on its own. But then if I bring my heel to my rear end, that brings in my other hip flexor, my rectus femoris. And I get a nice stretch more down into my thigh. And that's a really important muscle because it is a hip flexor, so when you stride and extend your hip, it needs to be loose enough to give you the mobility to get into that extended position without arching your back and putting lots of wear and tear on your back. But it's also important because if you sit at school or sit at work or sit in front of the TV when you get home, those muscles are in a shortened position, so they tend to get very, very tight. And then add to it the fact that it attaches to your pelvis right in the front. And if they're tight, they'll kind of, you see the hockey players, their butt sticks out the back like that. It's because they're tight here and it's pulling them down. They can't get into that neutral position. They have too much arch in their low back. This is the preferred way for stretching your hamstrings, or this is the way I like to do it. This leg is flat down on the floor. That toe points straight up. This knee stays straight, and you're just going to come up until you feel a mild to medium stretch back here. Then you can also come across, but you have to keep your hips flat on the floor when you come across, and that will take the stretch a little more to the outside. And then you can get the inside by coming out, but again, make sure you keep your hips flat on the floor. If we look at our straightforward hip flexor stretch, this one that most of you probably include either before or after your games and practices, you feel this one a little more up in the top of the hip. You tuck your bum underneath a little bit. A common mistake is to lean forward and then kind of arch your back, and that puts slack on the hip flexor. So stay tall and tuck your rear end underneath to feel a little stretch here. And then if my right leg is back, I'm going to reach straight up with my right arm and over to the side. And you might feel that come in a little bit into your abdominals even, but that muscle actually attaches to your low back. So that's a way we can put it specifically on a little more stretch. Make sure you really, really reach up with this arm. I see lots of people who do this kind of thing, and it's not the idea. You need to put that all on a stretch and then come away, because again, those muscles work as a system.